Now, if you're like me, the implications of this have been hitting you in waves. 1 minute you're numb, and the next minute you realise that Donald Trump, this man, will soon have access to the nuclear codes. And then maybe you get distracted by daily life until it hits you again. Oh, our future president was supported by a former Grand Wizard of the Klan, and 60 million people voted for him despite that. And then maybe you finally manage to get some sleep, but then you wake up realising, oh, the Supreme Court.
The angry American with the British accent. In the season finale of Last Week Tonight, John Oliver dedicated the entire episode to the election. No surprise, he's been a major critic of President-elect Donald Trump. Here's a little more of his case to you.
And I know this is all depressing, but it does bring us back to the important question, what the do we do now? And for the record, the answer is not move to Canada. Literally, the only excuse to ever migrate to Canada is if you were born there originally, it's springtime, and you are a goose. That's it. That is it. No, instead, we're going to need to stay here and fight. And not just politically in 4 years when he's up for re-election, but constantly monitoring legislation as it moves through Congress and voting when your legislators come up for re-election in 2 years. But that is still below the barest minimum of what is going to be needed, because for the last 8 years, we've had a president we could assume would generally stand up for the rights of all Americans. But that is going to change now. So we're going to have to actively stand up for one another. And it can't be just sounding off on the internet or sharing think pieces or videos like this one that echo around your bubble. I'm talking about actual sacrifice to support people who are now under threat.
So
he was talking about news organizations there, and Planned Parenthood, groups like that do specific things that he believes are in jeopardy.
Let's not forget, this is the John Oliver who came on with sort of a mea culpa a week or two ago and said, look, I'm guilty of making light of Donald Trump and sort of encouraging him in jest to run 2 years ago.
Right. Look, people are all having all this debrief now about what happens. I've been a critic of a lot of these sardonic comics when it comes to politics, because I think when you joke about the process, you cheapen it. And you can heighten disaffection. I used to say it about Stewart. I think it about this guy. I think it's interesting, though, to watch him, because this is all new to him. You know, this is like the first time he went through one of these where the country seems to be divided. So, it's like watching young journalists process this, because they've never dealt with any of these divisions before. But at the end of the day, he has to remember, he's thinking, what do we do now? It depends who you are. If you're a working class person in this country who believes the system is set up to be against you, you feel like there's a hope here, that someone's going to be for you now.
Absolutely.
It was always fair game to mock Trump because of what comes out of his mouth. That's intolerant, that plays to bigotry. That was always fine. Disrespecting the people who believe in him, like where you're from in Minnesota, and where I'm from in Queens, that was a mistake.
That's why the deplorables comment will forever stay part of this conversation.